WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often reviewing rare and exotic whiskeys. Not sure how the distribution is of this in the United States is. We have Ben Holladay. We have soft red wheat bottled in bond Missouri straight bourbon whiskey. I have a unique 700 milliliter bottle because I bought this from the UK and it has 50% ABV. I'm missing the red little six. Now, on the side, I still have the same sticker everyone else always gets on their bottles, and I think that's very, very great. So we have here distilled in the fall of 2017. We have bottled April 2024. So it is 6 years. It's actually 6.5. The DSP MO for Missouri is the number 5. They did a fairly good job of putting that in and blazing that on the bottle as well. All right. So we have here Rickhouse C. We have floor 100% and floor number 3. And it says here distilled, aged, and bottled in by Holladay Distillery in Weston, Missouri. Distributed exclusively by Sazerac UK London Ltd Limited. My question is, does anyone know what Sazerac is doing here with Holladay? Is there any type of cooperation, or is it just their European or UK maybe only UK distribution partner? Now, this does have a whiskey-based number, interesting enough, 257060. And yeah, let's talk a little bit about the distillery. Now, when we go to the history of the distillery, they actually have a number on the bottle, which is like, wait a second. It says here since 1856. There has not been a Holladay distillery since 1856. And then you start reading a little bit about the history, and they actually go back even way further. Remember Lewis and Clark from elementary or middle school or even high school, the guys who tried to find the head of the Mississippi River, the source of it? They passed through what later would become the Holladay Distillery, and they discovered the limestone spring water source. Now, people from Kentucky, which Ben Holladay was, knows limestone water makes the best whiskey. So, 1837, the town of Weston was officially established with a population of about 300 people. All right, it was the second largest port on the Missouri River, surpassing both Kansas City and St. Joseph's. So we'll get back to that in a moment, why it did not become bigger than Kansas City. Now, Ben Holladay, 1849, this guy was a mastermind of transport systems. He owned the Pony Express for a short time. He sold some of the coaches that became Wells Fargo. I mean, the guy owned riverboats and railroads and all this stuff. And the Holladay brothers, they actually, 1949, bought the land, and they distilled their first batch of bourbon under the label Blue Springs Distillery. The barrels back then were stored in an ancient cave on site that had previously been used for meat curing and preservation. And this cave is still there, and people actually visit on the tour. Now, the Holladay brothers distilled their first batch of bourbon here in 1856. So, for some reason, my thing got this wrong, I think. Okay, who cares? 1857, 1 year later, they put it on the market, their bourbon. So their whiskey back then. It was sold for 35 cents per gallon. Have you ever watched Moonshiners where they actually talk about whiskey or moonshine and so on? They're selling like $200 a gallon. And back then it was 35 cents. All right. So 1858, the distillery was transferred to Benjamin Holladay, the brother of Ben Holladay. And then 1881, something happened, and this just blew my mind. I knew things like that happened, but I didn't know what happened there. A flood caused the Missouri River to shift into an old channel a couple of miles away. It is speculated that the river had not shifted. Weston might have become what Kansas City is today. Fascinating aspect here. So, 1894, David Holladay's death was a year before. The business name was passed on to his son, David Holladay Jr., and his son-in-law, Thomas Gregory Barton, to become Barton and Holladays in 1894. So, 1897, Bottle and Bond Act. 1900, George H. Shawhan comes along and buys the distillery. So, since his original distillery, the Lone Jack Distillery, was destroyed in a fire, a lot of fire is going to happen the next time, and the name of the business was changed to the Shawhan Distillery. 1920, Prohibition, as we know. 1936, Isidore Singer and his brother purchased the distillery and renamed it the Old Weston Distilling Company. 1942, World War II, the distillery was renamed McCormick Distillery. It's like, wait, I know that name. I know McCormick Distilling. After the rights to the company's name and formula were purchased from the original McCormick Distilling after its Waldron, Missouri location was destroyed by, you guessed it, fire. 1950, McCormick Distilling Company is purchased by Midwest Grain Products. Does that ring a bell? MGP? A company owned back then by Cloud L. Cray in Kansas. And the company purchases the distillery primarily to store alcohol in the large empty rick houses due to the threat of the impending war in Korea. You can have a whole story about that, how people actually thought, okay, just like World War II, we're going to have a war with Korea. We're going to not be allowed to make bourbon. We have to make industrial alcohol. Therefore, we're going to bunker it and we're going to sell it for a good price during the war. Well, never happened. A devastating fire in 1957 nearby nearly destroys the distillery building, the oldest building on the distillery site. All right, the distilling building was not destroyed, nearly. 1974, this site becomes a National Register of Historic Places, just like Buffalo Trace, just like Michter's Distillery was, and so on and so on. 1985, bourbon is no longer produced here. All right. On site is halted. The company shifts its focus to production of value spirits. What happened in 1985? Vodka, cheap drinks, no longer premium products like bourbon. 1993, McCormick Distilling Company was acquired by a group of private investors led by spirits industry veterans Michael S. Grieser and Edward A. Pekar. And they want to develop a premium brand portfolio, and they have new ideas. And yet, the distillery in 1995 is closed for all tours. The county stores actually moved to Main Street in downtown Weston. So nothing happens for 20 years. 2015. Someone must have a brain wave. Something must have happened. I can't find the information of why after 20 years they're like, hey, let's resurrect the Holladay brand here. But it's actually the bourbon boom is really, really going up and up and up. And the distillery underwent now a $10 million renovation of the original stillhouse. And they began distilling bourbon on the site for the first time in 30 years. So no tours for 20 years, 30 years, no bourbon was made there. And they renamed and resurrected the Holladay Distillery. 1 year later, 2016, there were the first tours to happen. 2019, we have the Real Missouri Bourbon legislation. According to the House Bill 266, signed on Thursday, July the 11th, 2019, any whiskey labeled as Missouri Bourbon must not only meet the federal standards for bourbon, but also be mashed, fermented, distilled, aged, and bottled in Missouri. It must be in oak barrels manufactured in Missouri, and I read from Missouri Wood, and beginning January 1st, 2020, made with corn exclusively grown in Missouri. And the law went in effect August 28th, 2019. Now, I love this, and I think sometimes, really? Even the corn? I mean, okay, bourbon's made primarily out of corn, so the corn, the wood, everything has to happen in Missouri. All right, why not? I think that's kind of cool. All right, so we have 2022. They waited 6 years to release their Ben Holladay Straight Bourbon whiskey, which is the 6-year-old bottled and bond small batch rye bourbon, a real Missouri bourbon as they call it. And 2023, a year later, they released this, the Holladay Distilleries soft red wheat bourbon, 6 years old as well, bottled and bond, wheated real Missouri whiskey. Whew. All right, so that's kind of really cool, to be honest. I think I like history of just places like that, and I was really really tickled pink to have all that information on the website. What am I going to compare it to? If you've ever been on my channel, you know I compare, so I'm going to go for this. I could have brought out a Wilderness Trail wheated bottled and bond bourbon. I import, I distribute, or I'm the person responsible for Wilderness Trail in Germany, and I just thought it would be a little bit. Um, I was afraid that this would be better. I love Wilderness Trail's Rise. I love Wilderness Trail's Rye. The batch of Wilderness Trail wheated bourbons that we got, I'm not the best fan of those. They're about 4.5, 5 years of age. I think wheated needs a little bit longer in the barrel. All right. So this is 73% corn. This is 70% corn. This is 15% soft red wheat. This is 16% soft winter wheat. This is 12% malted barley. This is 14% malted barley. Maker's Mark always says they age between 5 and 8 years, usually 6 to 8. So I'm going to guess this is a 6-year-old product. So we're getting very, very similar reference points, 45% versus 50%. Yeah, I know. 28 euros, 109 is what I had to pay to get this over here. Did I talk about that? I thought not. I talked about it in my German video. I bought this in UK. And my problem is when I buy something UK, since we now have the wonderful thing called Brexit, I have to pay a lot of money to get it over here. So what I did is this cost me over there in the UK 73 euros. So it's $60, 73 euros, no problem. I bought 4 bottles. I bought the Aquavite Loch Lomond, the 2. I bought this, and I bought a Leiper's Fork. So I had to pay 30 euros worth of shipping. It's pounds. It's 30 pounds of shipping I had to pay, which is like 36 euros. I had to pay 113 euros on those 4 bottles for excise tax, VAT, import, 113. So that means each and every bottle, 73 euros I paid for this. I paid 36 euros on postage and excise tax. 50% over on top. I think that's just too much. Yeah. So this, I paid 109 euros to get this bottle over here. I saw it in the States. I could have put it in a suitcase. I wouldn't have had something else instead. I had already bought this before I went to the States, so the Royal Mile whiskey shop was so nice to wait 2 weeks to send it off before, so it arrived after I had arrived back from the U.S. A lovely service. I like the people there. I like what they're doing there, and so I like to give them my money. I don't like giving the German government my money for my whiskeys, so that's my problem. All right, good. Not as much as I do shops. So now on the nose, this is very nice. This does not smell like a wheated whiskey. This smells like a wheated whiskey. I don't like Maker's Mark Red Label. At least I don't think I like it until I do blind tasting with all different types of products that's in there. I like it. If I just taste it and I know what it is, don't like it. I think I'm prejudiced against the Maker's Mark. Now this, I don't know if I'm prejudiced or not. There's some red fruits in here. There's some cherry. There's some cinnamon, but a little bit. There's a little nutmeg. There's vanilla. There's wood. There's a balance. There's graham crackers. There's apricots. There's a little bit of grain. This is nice. Very, very nice. Like the 50%. There's no alcohol burn whatsoever. Well done. Well done. And I love the fact they waited 6 years. So let's try it. Cheers. I would love to know if this is chill filtered or not. I could not find any information. Do you have any information? It almost feels like it's not, and yet it does think it's creamy, it's silky. There's a little bit of velvety moment going on in there. The wood is there, a little bit of toffee, a little bit of leather, um, vanilla, cherries, plums, prunes. Nice. This is the bee whiskey. That's really, really nice. I think most whiskey tubers out there have really liked this. What I would like to have, of course, would be a bourbon with rye in it to compare. What I did find at Masters of Malt is there is actually a Ben Holladay soft red wheat bourbon bottled and bond. No, it's not bottled and bond. I'm sorry. A Ben Holladay soft red wheat bourbon Rickhouse proof with 59.9% ABV. I want that. It's almost 120 proof. It's 87 euros, and then it's going to be another 40 euros to get it over here. So it'd be, that's when I buy 4, and if I buy 6, it's not much cheaper. That's going to be 120 euros instead of 109 euros. But still, it's like, I want that. I would really like to try that. All right, so we'll have to see. Maybe I'll make another purchase. Let's try the second sip as well. This was so nice. Now the $60 value. Let's talk about this. What wheated whiskeys out there with a 6+ year-old age statement have you ever had? Wilderness Trail has a bottled and bond 6-year-old wheated whiskey. They had an 8-year-old. The 6-year-old was about $75, $80, so it was more. Larceny, no age statement, but we know it's around 5 to 6, 7 years old as well. Barrel proof, cost 10 euros more, $10 more. There's not that many wheated whiskeys out there with an age statement on there. We can go for the cellar age from Maker's Mark. That's going to be almost double the price of this. So this is somewhat unique. It's very unique because it's Missouri, and it fulfills all the regulations and rules and boxes for Missouri bourbon, and I think that's fabulous. So I'm going to give this a solid C for value for money. This is not something I'm going to say go buy it. All right, so A is why haven't you bought it, B is buy it, C you can buy it if you want, D you don't need it, and F why was the stuff made. And so this is, yeah, you can go out and buy it. It has a real recommendation. It has a solid B for flavor. That's fantastic. I'm very stingy with my A's and my B's. All right, I give a lot of C pluses and maybe a B minus C plus every once in a while. Getting an A or B is big things in my book, and that actually fulfilled the requirements for that. Just a little comparison here. So much thinner. So there's just something lacking there. And a lot of my wheated whiskeys lack something. Now, the W. Weller 12 doesn't lack anything. It's just a little watery, but it's 45%. But it's not lacking anything. It has a lot of wood, chocolatey moments there. Almost like an Oval Martina. It's a Swiss chocolate malt drink. This has balance and flavor and depth and greatness. I'm looking forward to what Ben Holladay Distillery is going to make in the future. Well done, people. So my question of the day is, have you tried this or any other products from Ben Holladay? If so, what is your opinion? Second question is, what is your favorite bottle and bond product? And the third question is, what is your favorite wheated bourbon? Just write down something, or all three answers if you want. Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and telling others. Whiskey Jason here. See you soon. Bye-bye.